What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Hat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a few things to discuss with you today. Gabrielle is continuing to get its act together and organize. We have our area of interest in the main development region to discuss, as that's looking more like a long-term threat and potentially putting some areas in the line of fire, and our Central American gyre situation, once again, as more data is starting to pick up on that going into late September and early October. So a few things we have to discuss for you today. Let's go ahead and dive right into all of it right here. So starting off, we have Gabrielle for you guys right here. Let's go ahead and start with the public advisory right here. Gabrielle is moving to the northwest at 13 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds are at 50 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure is 1,004 millibars. For you right here. Tropical storm force winds extend outward 140 miles from the center. At this current point, gradual strengthening is forecast, and Gabrielle is expected to become a hurricane by tomorrow. At this current point in time, please do keep in mind this is the 5 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time advisory. By the time you do see this video, this might be subject to change, so please do keep that in consideration. I'm recording this very early once again, just because I have stuff going on, I have work and all of that, so I do apologize for if this is outdated or not. Going ahead and going to the discussion right here, let's go ahead and take a quick gander at this discussion right here. Although Gabrielle's low-level center is obscured by high cirrus clouds at a 5:55 UTC, which is about 1:55 a.m. microwave pass, confirms that it is still located west of the deep convection mass due to continued moderate westerly shear. The convection itself has been quite intense, with high cloud density and lightning located with cloud top temperatures as low as minus 85 to minus 90 degrees Celsius. This is stuff you would find in the Western Pacific, which I know there's activity over there right now, but this is the kind of stuff you'd find in the Western Pacific region as well, and that is something to pay attention to right there. We're seeing quite a lot of convection firing off, and as long as it keeps fighting that shear, and it will continue to weaken as time goes on, things will get more interesting moving forward. The latest satellite imagery estimates, as well as ASCAD data from yesterday evening, still shows 45 knots. ASCAD data also shows that there is no tropical storm force winds on Gabrielle's western side, so it's mainly eastern side. Once the shear subsides, we probably will have a better situation moving forward. Vertical shear is expected to decrease over the next day or two, which should allow Gabrielle's circulation to become more vertically aligned, leading to strengthening. The intensity models are generally split in two camps. The statistically dynamical runs and the global models are more subdued on the amount of strengthening that Gabrielle might experience. The regional hurricane models, as well as the HCCA and Florida State Super Ensemble, are more aggressive, with the HAVS A models bringing, in particular, bringing Gabrielle to a major hurricane strength in about 2 days. While not going that high, the NHC intensity is forecast to is close to the other models in the camp that continue to show the possibility of peak of 90 knots in 60 to 72 hours. With the southward shift in the track forecast at days 4 and 5, Gabrielle's extratropical transition will likely be delayed, although the official forecast continues to depict tropical cyclone activity for the next 5 days. They have their peak at 105 miles per hour right here, so that's mid-range Category 2 strength for you guys right there. So that's definitely something that we are going to want to watch. Also, aircraft reconnaissance is going to be going out into this system as well. Going into this afternoon, we're looking at right here around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're expecting some Recon to go into Gabrielle and kind of investigate the system. This will be very critical as to what's going on in there, and that data that we gather will give us an idea of what the wind field will look like, what the strength will actually be, and we won't be able to rely just solely on satellite estimates going forward, and that is some really good news right here. We also have another flight going in for tomorrow right here as well, looking at around, I'd say, tomorrow morning as well, which is some good news too. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to those. And I am really excited to look into that Recon data as it comes out, because that will be very intriguing and very interesting to see what they're going for with this. But also, we got to go ahead and talk about what's going on with our area of interest as well. But before we do that, we do need to show the cone. Actually, I was kind of getting ahead of myself. Looking at this right here, you're looking at this cone. It's moving to the northwest right here, expected to stay east of Bermuda as a strong hurricane, and then move towards the Azores Islands over here. I was talking about this potentially being a threat for the Azores. It looks like it's leaning towards that direction right now, so you're definitely going to want to pay attention to that down the line, but ultimately still going to be at hurricane strength by the time it starts to approach that region. So we're definitely going to want to pay attention to that, as well as this area of interest right here. So let's go ahead and read this out. A tropical wave over the eastern Atlantic is producing disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity well south of the Cabo Verde Islands. Some slow development of this system is possible through the middle to latter part of next week, while it moves west-northwestward across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days. So that's something that you're going to want to keep an eye on and something that you're going to want to pay attention to moving forward. But by and large, those are two areas right now. We're also watching our Central American gyre threat, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. But I want to go ahead now and start to head to satellite imagery to talk about Gabrielle, kind of analyze it, see what's going on with that over there, so that way we can give a better idea as to what it needs to do in order for it to start its intensification period. So here is your satellite imagery. We'll go ahead and pop this up right here for Gabrielle. We'll go ahead and move into this right here. You're seeing a lot of really good convection firing off all across the board right here. Definitely good outflow with this as well. The problem is it's mainly to the east of the center of circulation, and it's still battling some wind shear. But even still, it is fighting like hell to keep its act together and try to consolidate. Once that shear decreases below 15 knots, it's going to have a much easier time doing that. And I would say it would most likely start to decrease to that level by the time we get to this afternoon or this evening based on the conditions ahead of it. But it has plenty of warm water as well that it can chug through as well to keep producing a lot of this convection. And I've said this before and I will say it again. 50 miles per hour is what this tropical storm is. It may not seem like much, but this is a scary 50 mile per hour tropical storm if you ask me, with the conditions ahead of it today and especially tomorrow as it starts to intensify at a very fast rate right here. So you're definitely going to want to watch out for this. Also noticing more and more of this convection is moving towards the west as well, kind of filling in over in that region as well. It's part of it may be due to the westward motion, but you're seeing that westward shift in some of that some of that convection. I apologize for almost missing that word for that convection right there. So definitely kind of an indicator the shear may be weakening a tad bit this morning. It still needs to battle a little bit more before things really get its act together, but it's doing a good job so far of just fighting the elements right now, and I really don't have too many complaints given the circumstances. And you're also noticing convection starting to pop up over here on the southern side of it as well, something to pay attention to going forward. You're looking at convection starting to pop up in this area right here. You're definitely going to want to pay attention to that. Actually, I'll go ahead and pause the frame for you right here. You're definitely going to want to pay attention to this. You're definitely going to want to pay attention to that. You're definitely going to want to pay attention to that as well, because if you start seeing this starting to merge together and kind of form a new line of convection to the west of it, that tells me, okay, this is going to get more organized. We're definitely going to want to pay attention to this, and we'll have to continue to keep you updated on that. But that's what we have, at least with the infrared. Looking at your water vapor imagery with this right here, yeah, it's kind of doing a good job of keeping itself in a moisture pocket right here. It's producing a lot of its own convection, and it's running into some moisture as well, and it will start running into that trough angle pretty soon that will allow for more ventilation and allow for potential tightening and more intensification once that shear decreases over there. But by and large, it's doing a great job of kind of keeping whatever dry air is up here out of the system for right now. So that's definitely something to keep in mind and consider. But still, it's helping fuse with some of this moisture over here to the west as well. Off to a great and fantastic start with this right here. And I would not be surprised if we see maybe a hurricane by like very early tomorrow morning. Like I'm talking like 2 o'clock in the morning. Type situation where maybe we get up to 60 miles per hour in the afternoon, and then things start to ramp up in intensity as we go into tonight, especially as diurnal max starts to pick up a bit more, and we start to see better and better conditions as well, with the shear decreasing, with warm waters of 29 degrees Celsius, which is 84 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you living in the United States. You're also dealing with less wind shear and more moisture, as I've talked about before. So that's something you're going to want to consider. Also, outflow is going to be critical with this, especially once this trough angle starts to help it really start to get its act together. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind as well. But that's what we have for you right now with Gabrielle. We'll talk more about models a little bit later, but I want to very briefly go ahead and get over to the Eastern Atlantic to talk about our area of interest, and then do some more ensemble perusal about the Central American gyre. So here's what we have for you right here for our MDR development area. Not very much to talk about. Remaining relatively disorganized, kind of staying attached with the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ for short, but still, it's going to be more of a long-term threat for development. And looking at the moisture, you're definitely seeing that is starting to pop out as well. Yes, you do have a little bit of a dry air slot over here, but I wouldn't necessarily be too concerned with it as long as this produces convection right here and stays well to the south of it. So that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind and consider as well. Also, definitely seeing some moisture starting to enter parts of the region as well. So please do keep that in mind. But ultimately, this is more of a long-term threat, something to pay attention to, but not an immediate threat at this current point in time. But we'll still watch it, and we'll go ahead too, and even go ahead and start showing you some ensemble runs very quickly about our Central American gyre threat. So starting off, here is what we got for you right here. These are the latest runs. European, I'm going to be kind of blunt and go over all of this. The European doesn't really show that much at this current point in time. A few ensembles popping up here and there. But still something to pay attention to, because the GFS as well as the other runs are still kind of popping up some of their scenarios as well. GFS is popping a few ensembles here and there for that. Let's go ahead also and go to about 12 days out just for context. This would be October 2nd. You're definitely seeing a few of those ensembles starting to pop up here and there in parts of the Central American gyre. That's definitely going to be something to consider as well. I would say the next few days you're going to want to watch this area for development, this area for more data and information, of course. Definitely something to pay attention to as well. But the ensembles that are really leading the charge are the GDM FNV3. We can go ahead and pull this up for you right here. Definitely starting to pop up those scenarios right there. This is the 0Z. By the time we get to this point, let's go ahead and go back to about 10 days out, which would be September 30th. Yeah, that's when it starts to pop up. Same with around the 28th of September as well. So definitely something to consider as well. We can go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit right here, but you start to pop up with this right here. We kind of are showing you this right here. I know it's to the left of your screen, but you're definitely starting to see those scenarios starting to pop up by the 30th of September. Heck, I would argue they even start popping up around the 28th of September as well, and then they start to go haywire from there. So that's your FNV3 data. Here is your GENC data for you guys right here, starting to pop up around the 28th to the 29th of September. Then by the 30th, you're really starting to see a lot of scenarios, especially in the Northwestern Caribbean and in parts of the Southern Gulf region as well, that you're going to want to consider. And then as we get to October 2nd, you really start to see more ensembles popping up over there. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to it. While it is still a mixed signal for the most case, you can make an argument over here that things are starting to get a bit more interesting over here. You're definitely seeing more model support with this, so that's definitely something that you're going to want to keep in mind moving forward. So that's what we have with your Ensemble data right here. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and show you some model data just to kind of close this out and neatly wrap this up in a nice little bow. We're going to do the hurricane runs with Gabrielle just to kind of do that, since that's kind of the hot news that a lot of people are talking about. So here is what you have with the H-Wharf. We're going to go ahead and pop this for you guys right here. This is what we have for consolidation. It's expected to get its act together starting in a few hours, actually, according to the latest H-Wharf, and really start to ramp up in intensity. And by the time we get to late tonight, the H-Wharf is forecasting this to potentially be a Category 2 hurricane based on the pressure alone. Looking at the mean sea level pressure winds, yeah, that would kind of corroborate to high-end Category 1, low-end Category 2 strength as well. So that's really something that you're going to want to watch out for. And this would be for tomorrow morning. This would actually be about, I'd say, 24 hours by the time you see, by the time I'm done recording this and you see by the time I'm done recording this video, excuse me. But then, as time continues to go on, really intensifies right here. It gets close to major hurricane strength on a couple of occasions. Actually, it does reach hurricane strength by September 23rd. That would be Tuesday morning for you guys, and then it would start to weaken. Its structure would start to decrease a little bit, and that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to. So that is your H-Wharf model for you guys right here. Let's go ahead and show you the HMON as well. Here is this right here. We'll go ahead and pull up the 0Z HMON to show you this as well, just for context. Here is the HMON that we have. It's kind of lacking in organization right up until right here. I'd say about 7 p.m. tonight is when that western side starts to build up, and then things really start to turn up, especially into late tonight and going into tomorrow morning, where we're looking at a pretty strong hurricane by the end of this. Looking at Category 2 strength at its peak right here, close to major hurricane strength as it passes Bermuda right there. It kind of reaches major hurricane strength, yeah, right there, as you're noticing it moving to the northeast of Bermuda right there. But then it starts to weaken and potentially transition to an extratropical cyclone as it heads towards the Azores Islands. So that is something that you are going to want to watch out for. Next one we'll show you is the Halves A. For you guys right here, Halves A is definitely pretty interesting, to say the very least. Halves A has the system really consolidating in the next little while. I'd say by 24 hours out, so this would be by around 7 p.m. tonight. This is already a strong tropical storm according to the Halves A. In fact, all the hurricane models are really aggressive with this right now, quite more aggressive than previously, and the Halves A really has this blowing up to a Category 3 hurricane by tomorrow afternoon, which I would honestly say isn't necessarily outlandish, but it needs to battle that shear before it can do anything like that. Especially as it approaches Bermuda. The Halves A actually wants this to become a Category 4 hurricane down the line, so you're definitely going to want to pay attention to that as well, Category 4 strength. Then it starts to weaken due to cooler waters and shear, and then it starts to slowly transition towards an extratropical cyclone. So that is something that you're going to want to consider right there. So one of those power runs, really showing the power for you guys right there. Let's go ahead now and lastly show you the Halves B run. The Halves B has the system continuing to consolidate as well, and by the time we get to tonight, we're already at hurricane strength with this right here, and by tomorrow morning, we're already at major hurricane strength, similar to the Halves A, although the pressure is a little bit high for my liking, I will say that right now, but as things start to blow up, the Halves B wants this to become a Category 4 at 140 miles per hour, so even more aggressive than the Halves A, pressure of 955 millibars, so this is a relatively small system when you think about it right here, that's really just getting its act together at the right time, that these hurricane models really do want this to happen, and we could see one of those scenarios, like I've said previously, where we see a lot of power associated with it and not as much impacts with this. This could potentially generate a lot of ACE for you guys, and that's something that you're going to want to pay attention to. We'll also keep an eye on that MDR threat, as well as the Central American Gyre, too. So those are 3 areas that we're going to want to watch out for, especially in the next couple of weeks. And we will continue to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, feel free to join the Storms Unite Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.